I think what a brain trust. Kid Rock and Donald Trump and Bill Maher all in one room to wax bigoted, anti-science, and maybe Dana White. I don't know much
Bill
about
Maher's
him,
now a bigot. That's unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's bigoted
So
about
because
Bill
Bill Maher
Maher?
sat with Donald Trump, he's now a bigot.
Hey.
Okay.
Hey, so look, here's the thing. I feel like sometimes you guys don't pay
Bill
attention.
Maher's
First of all, I'm not going to
pro-Israel, for God's sake.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, as you can see from that intro, we got a Piers Morgan debate coming for you guys, and it's going to be a fun one, y'all. We got a lot of blatant hypocrisy going on with this. We're going to touch upon all kind of different subjects, but before we get into that, I need y'all to do me a giant favor and smash that like button for me if you don't mind. Subscribe if you're new around here. I cover these every single weekend, and I go over politics, and we discuss news, and we go through all the manipulation by the corporate press, and we just have a good old time around here. So if y'all could smash that subscribe button and share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. But without any further ado, let's jump right into it, y'all.
Would you say problem? A lot of people who love Trump might not see it as a problem at all. They might think, yeah, great, if he's doing great guns by then, if he delivers on all his promises, why not? I mean, again, I understand how the Constitution is right now to prevent it, but as Ari explained very diligently there, this has only been since the end of World War II. It's not like it's been there from the start.
So are the new amendments to the Constitution less important than the older ones, Piers?
Sorry, Jesse?
I said, are the newer amendments to our Constitution less important than the older ones?
No, but I guess I would say, as a Brit who's not an American, so let me obviously make that clear. My accent probably gives you a clue. But I've never understood why there should be such a sacrosanct reliance on the current Constitution, given that so many of the things in it are amendments. So if they've already been amended, why couldn't they be amended again? I mean, treat me like a village idiot, Jesse. Well, hang on, let Jesse answer. But treat me like a British village idiot. If something's already been amended once, actually, why can't it be amended again?
Well, it can be. It's a Herculean endeavor to try to get that through. But I would challenge your assertion at the very beginning when you said it's a terrible way of doing business to adhere to some loyalty to the Constitution. It's the basis and foundation for the rule of law in this country, and to ignore it is at folly of the people who will do so. Republicans love to hold up their constitutions that they pull out of their pockets that are nothing but a prop and act as though they have respect for this document. When I served in the United States Marine Corps for the years that I did, I raised my right hand and swore an oath to defend and support this document against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that includes Donald Trump. We should have a vital respect and adherence to the rule of law in this country, and it's based on the Constitution.
Okay.
And
all right, let's move on to.
If you were to amend the Constitution, if you were to amend the Constitution, it takes 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, and 3/5 of the states. The only way you could amend the Constitution to put Trump back in there is if the Democrats want to do it. That's why it will not happen. It's a silly debate. Trump is just having fun with all of us, and it's just not there.
Do you assert, Ari, that Donald Trump is lying when he says, I'm not joking, this is what I want? He's a liar?
Oh, he's having fun. Absolutely, he's having fun. I think he has no intention of serving a third term. Let him have a successful second term. I'm more worried about that.
Well, he nearly had a successful insurrection, so.
Yeah, can you guys do us a favor? Can you guys give us a Donald Trump fun dictionary so that we know when he's having fun, and then we also know when he's serious? Because when the president speaks, normally we take it seriously, but you guys seem to have this ESP with Donald Trump, this psychic connection to where you know when he's joking, and then you know when he's being serious. So tariffs, Greenland, I need you guys to break it down. You guys could be in charge of it. You guys break it down and let us know when we should freak the hell out, because that seems like something that a dictator will want to do. And we don't know when he's joking. He's the president. So when he says something, we take it as him meaning it.
Okay, Ari, it's actually a reasonable point.
Donald Trump was joking.
Yeah, it's a reasonable point, Ari, isn't it? Is that Donald Trump is not like any other president. He often does say stuff which he just shoots from the hip or says things to wind up the libs or whatever it may be. It's not an unreasonable point Van is making, that it ought to be probably easier to try and process what the president of the United States actually means in any given moment.
Look, Trump was elected because he's not a politician, because he's not predictable. And I do feel sorry for his critics. I feel sorry for people who go through every day saying, oh my gosh, Trump did this, Trump sneezed that, Trump coughed this. And they die, and they take it seriously. And you're right, maybe people like me have a decoder ring, and so we know when he's saying these things that you just roll your eyes and move on to the next one. I do that when he says
Is the long live the king also part of your decoder ring,
it won't be a
Ari
51st
Fleischer?
state. I'm sorry?
I think this is obvious. We should be paying attention
is
to
the
the
long
things that
live
he
the king
does.
post from the White House? Would this have been something that would have flown in the George W. Bush White House to declare himself a king and also flirt with the idea that he's not joking, he wants a third term in violation of the United States Constitution?
I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one, right? These people know exactly what Trump does, and they know exactly why they do what they do. They are just being very facetious on this. They're taking something Trump says and then, turning that into some sort of dramatic overkill, if you will, of, oh my God, he's a dictator. Look at what Trump is doing to try to make Trump look bad. We know you guys are just faking it outright. That's what Trump is doing. That's what you guys are doing. So how about some sort of handbook to let us know that you guys are actually being serious, because you pretend to be serious about all this other stuff that Donald Trump is doing, blah, 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 blah. But when your politicians, and as a matter of fact, Republicans do this too, they come out and they make all these promises and they're so serious. And then we get zero delivery whatsoever. We don't hear nothing from you guys. Oh, were they being serious about that, or were they just joking about that? Or do they actually care about the population, right? These people are just absurd, in my opinion, talking about, oh, they're insurrection, this and blah, 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 blah. He's the king. Yeah, he's doing that to rile you guys up. And if you guys actually take that seriously, then there is either, once again, something wrong with your brain, or you guys aren't taking it seriously and you're just pretending to be mad, feigning outrage, if you will. It's all utter nonsense. It's all just political theater, if you will. That whole king, we didn't have this under George W. Bush. Yeah, and George W. Bush was an idiot. He was just one of your average turnkey politicians, if you will, that just come in and promised all these things and didn't deliver. Well, he did deliver. He gave us a whole lot of war, a whole lot of spending, and a whole lot of nonsense. But I just love the double standard from these people when their politicians do it. Oh, we hold up or memory hole the bad stuff. But when the other side does it, oh, it's the end of the world. It's the freaking apocalypse. The sky is falling, if you will. It's just utter nonsense, y'all. And I can't stand that coming from these people. It's just so funny to watch them feign the outrage, fake weakness. It's just funny to see them get all bent out of shape over a joke or over something that's clearly Donald Trump is not being serious. He's simply doing that to push you guys' buttons. And y'all fall for it every single time. And as a matter of fact, y'all fallen for it so often, if you will, that has turned into a disease, a very, very contagious disease that comes from not being able to pay attention to news, not being able to figure things out for yourself. It's called Trump derangement syndrome, where you take everything Donald Trump says seriously as if nobody else ever says things and then don't deliver on the promises, or nobody ever says things that they're just fooling around, right? Politicians, or you think politicians aren't supposed to do that? Do you think Democrats don't ever do this? Like, seriously. Like, come on. Grow up, people. Seriously. But let's keep going.
Van, intrinsically, what is wrong with that ideology. I mean, if Trump recognizes that American manufacturing has been disappearing rapidly, a lot of jobs, factories outsourcing out to other countries. Actually, is he wrong? Yeah. I mean, let's put aside the way he's going about this, which many think is too radical and can't work. But is he wrong in trying to bring manufacturing back in a big way to the United States?
All right, two things. One, I want to respond to Jillian real quick. So you're right when Trump does something. But remember, we saw Trump try to overturn an election, use nefarious and illegal means to try to overturn an election, right? So we've seen him take action to subvert constitutional law and American norms. We've seen him do that. That's the first thing. So when he's not just,
he wasn't successful though.
He wasn't successful because
should
the
it happen
system
again?
held, but not because he didn't try.
Should it happen again though?
Okay, see, the system held, not because he didn't try.
Should he try again?
So secondly, this is what I would say about the tariffs. Number one is we would all like to see domestic manufacturing come back to the United States. We would all like to see Americans have wage growth and stable jobs. The point that I'm making is, or that a lot of people are making is this doesn't work. When Trump instituted his tariffs in his first term and he, tried to raise prices on foreign goods, do you know what happened? Domestic goods actually went up as well. And the reason why they went up as well was because those domestic manufacturers saw demand. They saw the fact that they were now in demand, and they rose prices to meet the prices of foreign goods that were also more expensive. Of course, it matters the way that you do something, because the way that you do something denotes whether or not that something works or not. Jillian was a fitness expert. I like to run. I also like to eat brownies in excess every night around 7 p.m. It's not going to work that way, right, Jillian? I'm going to break even. So you have to do something in the way that will allow it to be successful. And this tariff thing is not going to work. And that's not a red hat or a blue hat saying that. That's economists who are studying it and looking at it independently.
Okay, Jesse.
Well, not to mention the fact that even if we were to accept the premise of what Donald Trump is attempting to do here and what his motivations are, it is a long-tailed endeavor to stand up a manufacturing facility, to alter the nature of our economy and how diversified it is. It's not something with this magical thinking that conservative has that all of a sudden you've got an auto manufacturing plant or name another industry. It takes a long time to get that done. And by punishing these the American people with the tariffs and the price increases that are sure to come and have already started, you're not ending your goal. All you're doing is creating chaos, which seems to be the order of the day.
Real quick to address the beginning of that clip right there. In 1960, Kennedy was certified with a single slate of fake electors from Hawaii. As a matter of fact, go look into the history of this. I'll be proven correct on this. So I'm tired of the feigning of the outrage over the 2020 election nonsense. Everything Donald Trump did was on the up and up. Democrats had to twist the Constitution to go after his lawyers, for crying out loud, for writing up paperwork for him to actually challenge the election and blah, 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 blah. We've already worked all this stuff out, and you guys know that. But getting into the tariffs, he says, oh, it has to work for it to actually work. These people don't see. Of course, it's the long game that Donald Trump is trying to play here. And it's multiple things on multiple different levels, right? So the tariffs do all kinds of different stuff, right? It's not just, bringing manufacturing back. Yes, that is part of what the tariffs are meant to do. But the blanket tariffs over the whole world is trying to get some more free trade. Now, you might argue, well, hang on, if you can't have both, right? You can't have free trade and bringing manufacturing back. Yeah, I think you can, because you can have targeted tariffs, which is what was announced first. That's exactly what, because he went after auto manufacturing, he went after steel and aluminum, blah, 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 blah. those were the targeted tariffs that are probably going to stay in place. He wants to bring back auto manufacturing. He wants to rebuild our steel and aluminum industry. That is what those were meant to do. These blanket tariffs are to work out deals, to get trade back to where it's supposed to be. NAFTA was supposed to mean free trade for the entire world, except it didn't, or at least it didn't turn into that, right? Because we end up paying heavy duties to these other countries to export American goods. Now, we don't export a whole hell of a lot of stuff, true, but we have some major trade deficits because we're a consumer economy and blah, blah, blah. There's all kind of reasons for that, and I believe that those are going to always exist. But a lot of these countries, they take advantage of our goodwill, and they take advantage of our consumer economy, if you will, to try to scrape a little bit off the top. I love this argument. I made this argument yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and make this argument again because I keep pushing this point home, right? Democrats, they're always talking about taxing the rich and taxing the corporations. What Donald Trump is doing should be cheered on by these people. And as a matter of fact, some leftists actually have seen exactly what this is going to do. And, you know, it's just funny to watch these people flounder around on every single little thing Donald Trump does. But what Donald Trump said, okay, you guys, he talks to the left. Okay, left, you want to tax the corporations? That's exactly what I'm going to do, except I'm not going to tax American corporations. I'm going to tax all the other corporations in the world. That's what tariffs do, as a matter of fact. Now, it is up to those corporations whether they pass that tariff, that tax, if you will, along to you. And if they do, what I would suggest to every American out there is do every single thing you can not to buy imported goods. That's almost an impossibility. But you know, with some things, it kind of is. But with a lot of things, we do buy cheap Chinese crap, which, you know, I'll give it to China on some things. They do make some good products, right? They absolutely do. And I don't blame them for that. But they used to make a lot of cheap crap, and they still make a lot of cheap crap. And we still import a lot of cheap crap from China. But the point is, these tariffs are a tax on the corporations. They are not just going to take that tax and push it on to you, as we've proven on this channel several times. Like, look at Ferrari, for example. They come out, I covered a news article, I don't know, like a week ago, I guess, where Ferrari says, due to these tariffs, the auto tariffs, that is, we are raising prices by 10%. Well, that made me think, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. You know, listening to the corporate press and the left talk about this, Ferrari should have raised their prices by 25% because that's what the tariff was, but they only raised it 10%. So what does that do? Right? That pushes off some of that tariff onto you, but they are absorbing the majority of that tariff. Yes. So, therefore, Donald Trump is taxing the corporations on that. Simple as that. That is all that does. But, you know, once again, these are meant to do several different things at the same time. It's resetting the trade, the global trade. This is a good thing. This puts us in a position to be able to negotiate, which, as a matter of fact, my very next video, I'm going to cover a news article that shows that the tides are turning, that shows these tariffs are working. I've been having to make several videos. As a matter of fact, the video that came out this morning was about the same very thing, because the corporate press, they are pushing this narrative very, very, very hard. And so I have to push back against this, right? Because the only thing that the corporate press is telling you, I would not say a damn thing at all if the corporate press gave you all the information, but they're not. They're absolutely not, right? You can make your opinions or whatever, however you feel this is going to go. But the corporate press, what they do is they tell you it's a tax on you. And that's just not true. Not completely. They don't tell you that, yes, in certain cases, in most cases, as a matter of fact, these companies, they're going to absorb some of that. They don't ever tell you that. They don't ever tell you that this is a negotiating tactic to try to get actual free trade going on. They don't tell you, you know, the pros and the cons. They just tell you the cons, and that's it. Right? So we need to be handed all the information. The corporate press just isn't doing that, right? You have to have all the information to actually make an informed decision, or an informed opinion at least, right? So if you don't get all that information, what does that leave you? With a very, very biased opinion. And I think that's what the corporate press is trying to do, because this is what they always do. They try to turn the tide. They want to push the narrative. And it's very, very, very disingenuous, and I can't stand it. Just like with this Brago Garcia guy, the Maryland father, if you will, that was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. Well, that's just not true when you look into it. Sure, it was a clerical error. He wasn't supposed to be deported to El Salvador, which is his home country. However, they don't tell you that this guy was slated for deportation, only became a father after that immigration hearing, right, that he was supposed to be deported, so he knew he was slated for deportation and made a family anyway. What does that tell you? That he was trying to anchor himself to this country. That is what these people do. They come into this country and they spit in our face, break our laws, then try to loophole themselves around the Constitution. And then these very same people, they come out and say, oh, well, he didn't get his due process. As a matter of fact, he did. He absolutely did get his due process. Because the due process for criminal aliens, all it is prove you're an American citizen. And if they can't, bye-bye. That's it. That's the only due process they get. They do not get the same rights under the Constitution that we do. They have a specific set of rights that they get under our Constitution, and it is not the same as the Bill of Rights. It's not the same for American citizens. But the corporate press, they never tell you this, and I can't stand that. They don't ever give you all the information, but let's keep going.
On what's happening with Tesla, I just find it so ironic that here you have a huge number of people where Elon Musk was the hero, but because politically he slightly changed colours, they are now using violence. Really,
he slightly changed
violence.
Colours? He's thrown up Nazi salutes. He didn't slightly change colours.
He didn't throw up a Nazi salute, and you know he didn't. Right?
I know he did.
Nazi
He watched it. I'm not a Nazi apologist. You do you.
It was not a Nazi salute. Why would he throw a Nazi salute?
Because he's a white supremacist.
He's not a white supremacist.
Why would he campaign for the AfD in Germany? Why would he do that? Why would he continue to talk about the great replacement theory and birth rates among white people being too low in a
But he's right. He's right about birth rates. He's right about birth rates.
Yeah, like I said, that's you do you. It's not me.
Well, it's not about doing me. He's right about global birth rates are plummeting, and that is extremely dangerous for the future of the world. It is. It actually could be. Yeah, it is. I mean, if you look at some countries around the world now, it is becoming a genuine crisis. I don't know why you would dismiss that.
Because I don't think it's an existential crisis. It's cyclical. Population rises and falls, and in the 70s, it was like, oh, it's an explosion of too many people. We're not going to be able to feed the world's population. And thankfully, to people like Norman Borlaug, who through genetically modified organisms, we're able to feed the people who are here. But it's not an existential threat. That there are certain countries do face a far greater problem, South Korea, Japan, but the United States is not one of those countries. This is born out of racism, that the birth rates are not falling in Africa, and it's the, oh my God, black people will be the dominant force on the planet. That's what this is born out of, and that is what motivates Elon Musk, the guy who for sure didn't throw up a Nazi salute.
Well, he didn't. He went from my heart to yours, as everybody knows. And it was a completely trumped up bullshit to claim it was a Nazi salute.
It's not only naive, but it's very, very disingenuous, if you will, because, yes, that is an existential crisis. All you got to do is look at Social Security, my guy. Seriously, like, these people can't think outside of whatever is right in front of them for a second. Like, yes, birth rates, as a matter of fact, impact our economy. Yes. They promote growth in the economy. Our population has to grow for the economy to be able to grow. Come on, my guy, that's simple economics 101. the population has to grow. Yeah, sure, we had an explosion in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? So that has to continue. We have to keep those same birth rates if we want to keep our economy growing, my guy. Like, Social Security is going to become insolvent because there's going to be far too many people receiving benefits. It takes 4 people to pay into Social Security to make one outgoing payment, right? So what does that tell you? That system, that's why they call it a Ponzi scheme. It's because that system requires growth. You have to have more babies being born, as a matter of fact, right? Like, it's so, and the disingenuity part about that is, he's not talking about white birth rates. No, he's just talking about birth rates in general. Come on, dude. Like, seriously, he's just lying. I'm sorry. It's not disingenuous. He's just blatantly lying. He's just taking nonsense. He inserted the white part of that. These people are the ones that are the racists, as a matter of fact. Any of you people out there that think for some reason that, you have some sort of white privilege, or that, you believe that you're better or something like that, you guys are the white supremacists. We do not have any inherent privilege at all, not anymore. You could say that 40, 50 years ago, sure, I would probably agree with you, but these days, that has totally dissipated. I'm not saying that racism has gone bye-bye, but institutional racism has, as a matter of fact, since the 1960s, right? Sure, you have individual people that are racist, but you have that all the way across the spectrum, my guy, right? Go to China if you don't believe me, as a matter of fact. Just do that for a second. These people venerate China for some reason, but they are some of the most racist people, just like Japan. Hey, I'm not trying to disparage Japan. I get it. Look, I love the Japanese. I'm an anime guy, for crying out loud. I love watching anime, and they have a very, very unique culture. But, racism is a part of that culture. As a matter of fact, it's a lot more prevalent in China with these communist nations because they always believe they're superior to everybody else. But hey, that's neither here nor there. But that is so disingenuous, and it's disgusting to watch these people just try to disparage Elon Musk because he's in bed with Donald Trump, for crying out loud, and that's it. He's trying to do the nation a service. He's doing this job for free, and people are trying to destroy his company, which we're about to get into that here in a second. As a matter of fact, let's get into that.
All right, Van, you've been gesticulating wildly. You were laughing as Ari was talking about the petrol bombing of Tesla dealerships and so on. Why is that funny? Why would you not want to roundly condemn any act of violence, whether it's against cars, factories, dealerships, whether it's targeting people driving Teslas? Why would any of that make you feel like you're amused?
So here's the thing, Piers. I watch your show all the time. I enjoy it greatly. You are good at the condemning game. You're really good. You're so good. You're good at the getting people on and go condemn this, and it kind of takes the sting out of what we're actually talking about. So I'm going to try not to do that. I'm not going to give you a condemn. Okay.
Really? You're not going to condemn what's happening to Tesla?
No condemn. No condemn.
Wow.
Okay.
Why?
I can tell you right now that I am not going to be involved in anything that has to do with anything violent, but I'm not playing your condemning game. This is what I will say.
Why not? Why wouldn't you condemn it?
About the actual point, because it's a trick bag, and I'm not doing that.
What's the trick?
So it's a trick bag. Pearson, you know it. You know it's a trick bag. Pearson.
What's the trick? What's the trick?
The trick is this. So the trick is this. So the trick is getting me to moralize with an immoral side.
With a
right?
crime. With a crime, so yeah. With a crime.
Right.
I'm asking you to condemn a crime, literally.
Right. So what you're doing is you want me to get on a moral high horse, right?
I want you to condemn criminal behavior, yeah.
Despite the fact that we could have all kinds of conversations about how Trump has broke the law, about how Trump supporters have engaged in violence, all of that stuff, but that kind of gets glossed over while I'm trying to convince people how morally righteous and upstanding I am. Okay, I know who I am. No condemn. This is what I'll say. The main point of this, which is Elon Musk, right? The Elon Musk of this entire thing. Elon Musk did not just become public enemy number one for people after he decided to support Donald Trump. Elon Musk took over Twitter and brought hate speech back to Twitter. That's a fact. Okay? He brought hate speech back to Twitter.
What do you mean he brought hate speech back? What do you mean he brought hate speech back?
Meaning that on Twitter, a lot of words, terms, phrases would get you banned and muted and kicked off the platform.
And
when
they still do.
Elon Musk came back to Twitter.
They still do.
No, they really, they don't. The hate
they still do.
The hate speech on Twitter.
When can I
has
jump
gone
in here?
through the roof since
The
Elon Musk.
hypocrisy's killing me.
Wait.
The hypocrisy is bananas here.
Give me the hypocrisy.
When do I get to just go? Okay, let's look at it for a second. How many videos do you need to see of politicians on the left making the exact same hand gesture, and yet nobody's alarmed? We've seen it over and over and over again from politicians like AOC being a perfect example. However, you're upset about Elon Musk being an anti-Semite who happens to be friends with Jews, hire Jews, has never killed a Jew, and yet you're not upset about the swastikas being scratched into his car. How about the fact that the left, and we all know the reason that Kamala Harris didn't actually choose Josh Shapiro as her VP, although he would have probably been the best choice. Could it be because he's Jewish? I don't know. Let's speculate at it.
You think it was because he was Jewish?
Or how about the fact... I do think
it's a hell of a high watermark that he hasn't killed a Jew.
Yes, I do.
Hasn't killed a Jew, therefore.
What about the sick hail from all of your politicians? Not only has he not killed a Jew,
Democrat.
He's hired Jews. He's friends with Jews. Donald Trump's daughter Ivanka has converted to Judaism, and they're very close friends. I would imagine
is married to a Jewish guy.
You're full of crap.
Wait,
how about this one? Why are you not upset about Mahmoud Khalil? Where's your outrage about this guy who's part of an organization that celebrates the October 7th attacks?
You want to breathe. So you're saying that Kamala Harris is an anti-Semite because she didn't choose a Jewish running mate. She's married to a Jewish guy.
That the Democratic Party did not choose. I think. I'm not saying Kamala Harris.
Can you concede that point?
I'm saying that the Democratic Party.
That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense.
No,
She's married to a
I'm
Jewish guy.
talking about the party. I am talking about the entire party.
Look at the level.
So you really, so tell me,
Musk
why do you think they didn't choose Josh Shapiro?
Anti-Semite. I don't have no clue. I wasn't in the meetings. So Elon Musk is not an anti-Semite because he's never killed a Jew, right? He's never killed a Jew, so that Elon Musk is not an anti-Semite.
That's not what I said.
Kamala Harris.
That's
exactly what you said.
Obviously, I said to you, he is friends with Jews. He hires Jews.
And he hasn't killed a Jew.
You guys compare him to Nazis who slaughtered 6 million Jews. Obviously, there is no comparison, and it's insulting to a person whose grandmother ran from the Nazis that you would even make such a grotesque comparison. You are exploiting this tragedy, actually, that the Jews experienced to demonize this guy for political purposes. And there's no question. Where is your outrage about your own politicians making the exact same hand gesture? Why are you guys defending Mahmoud Khalil? Like, God forbid we consider deporting this guy who's here on a visa. And this is a guy who represents the CUAD, whose Substack has an entire article supporting October 7th. I can't with your hypocrisy. It's bullshit.
There's been no due process. Ooh. If you want to talk about this nation and what we stand for, the rule of law and due process should be chief among them.
He's here on a visa.
While you defend,
I guarantee you.
Like, well, if he
first of all, this has not played out. It's being looked at. Second of all, he is here on a visa. And I guarantee
the Constitution applies to him.
So tell me about your hate speech. You're so upset about hate speech. Are you upset about Substack's hate speech from CUAD celebrating October 7th? I'm moving the goalpost. No, I'm pointing out your grotesque hypocrisy to serve your political means to an end.
Oh, I love this talking point right here. Yeah, trying to get them to condemn violent actions. Of course, that is not a game, my guy. What that is meant to do is that is meant to show these very people who would think about going out and terrorizing the American population that, yes, People are against you. You are on the wrong side of history. Yes, getting on your high moral horse, if you will, or your moral high horse. Sometimes I word flips around, so it doesn't really matter. That is what that is meant to do. It is not a gotcha game or none of that nonsense, because if you are not willing to condemn violent actions against your own people, for crying out loud, and that's what that is doing, then yes, you are a bad person. Just, that's it. You are a bad person if you cannot condemn violence. As a matter of fact, we can go through, if you want to play whataboutism, we can go through, we can condemn January 6th. We can condemn other hang on. Is there any other right-wing violence other than January 6th that is widespread, known about? I don't think there is, but we could go with the left. You know, you've got what's going on right now. You had the protests of this past summer. You had let's see, the entire summer of 2020. Oh, there's been the Weather Underground. We could go through. Oh, how about Occupy Wall Street, for crying out loud? We could go over instance after instance after instance, college protest after college protest that turned violent. Oh, let's see, the riots of 1994 in Los Angeles. These are all left-wing violence. Yes, we condemn violence in this nation. Our entire Constitution is based upon morality, for crying out loud. It's based upon Christian values in this country. That's what that is based upon. And I love this Mahmoud Khalil thing, right? Oh, he gets the same rights under the Constitution. No, he doesn't. As a matter of fact, I will correct you right now, my guy. No, he does not. No, he does not. He does not get due process either. Oh, as a matter of fact, okay, I will say, I'll take that back. He does get due process. You know what that due process is? I kind of mentioned it earlier, but the due process is the Secretary of State saying, I'll revoke your visa. That's it. You want to change that? Lobby Congress, my guy. If you don't like that process, change it, for crying out loud. Lobby Congress, tell them to change the Constitution. Oh, we don't want to do that, do we? We don't want to change the Constitution. These people are absurd. She does a really, really good job of knocking all this down, pointing out the blatant hypocrisy, because that's what it is. These Democrats, they get out there, they promote violence all the time, kind of in an obscure way, if you will. It's sometimes a lot more overt. Just saying. But when Republicans do it, oh, it's the end of the world. The sky is falling. It's the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, if you will, type of thing going on. It's just the apocalypse. It's blah, 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 blah. And it's utter nonsense. It's just a complete double standard based upon one side doing the same thing that the other side does, for crying out loud. Words are words, and I love that whole hate speech thing, right? Because words are words. You can't, if you can't define hate speech with a proper definition, then to me, it doesn't really exist. But they define hate speech as any speech that they disagree with. That is right. That is how they define hate speech. Plus, for their definition, yes, hate speech is allowed under the Constitution. Once again, you want to go change the Constitution, lobby Congress. But good luck changing the First Amendment to include hate speech, for crying out loud. That will never happen. As a matter of fact, it will never happen. I can almost guarantee that. But you gotta love how once they get hit with reality, they get knocked down. Their arguments just get knocked down constantly on a steady basis. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one. Made the points quite clear. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's all I got on this one. Y'all make sure and stay tuned for my next video. Y'all go watch it. It's not out yet, but it will be. But I think that's all I got for this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. How wrong am I? That's what everybody always does. They come in and tell me how wrong I am. Yeah, right. If you can prove it, then prove it. I would suggest to prove it. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.